This message didn't appear on your screen by accident. It found you because your mind has been cycling inside a self-generated pattern scientists now call a mental loop, an invisible cognitive orbit where your inner world keeps pulling you back into the same thoughts, the same emotional responses, the same life outcomes over and over again. And the disturbing part is, you've felt it, haven't you? That strange heaviness behind your decisions. That déjà vu quality in your days. That subtle dread that no matter how much effort you put into changing your life, something always drags you back into the same version of yourself. Right now, as you're hearing these words, there's a part of you, the part that's been quietly observing your patterns, that recognizes this loop with absolute clarity. It's the silent awareness that whispers, "I've been here before. I've lived this moment before. I've felt this exact emotional sequence before." It's not coincidence. It's not burnout. It's not lack of discipline. It's the loop tightening. Your brain has been rehearsing the same neural pathways for so long that they've become a psychological gravity well. No matter how far you try to travel from your old identity, you eventually snap back into the same internal orbit, the same habits, the same self-talk, the same limitations, and every time you fall back into it, it becomes harder to climb out. But something different is happening right now. Something you can feel in your body. Because for the first time in a long time, the loop is destabilizing. There's a reason you stopped scrolling here, on this exact video, at this exact second. There are millions of people online right now, but only the ones whose internal loop has reached the breaking point ever make it to this message. You're here because something inside you is waking up. Something ancient, something intelligent, something tired of reliving the same psychological patterns disguised as life. You're starting to notice the repetitions. You're starting to question them. You're starting to see the invisible machinery behind your choices. And the moment you see the loop begins to crack. Because here's the truth nobody has ever told you. You are not stuck in these patterns because you're weak or broken. You're stuck because your mind has been trained by your past, your fears, your conditioning, to keep selecting the same mental script every single day. But the instant you recognize the loop consciously, something extraordinary happens. Your awareness rises above it. And when your awareness rises, the loop loses control. Right now, your entire inner world is shifting frequency without you trying to force anything. The recognition alone has changed something fundamental in your cognitive field. And if you keep watching, this shift won't just continue, it will accelerate. Because once you understand what the mental loop actually is, breaking it becomes inevitable. But here's where things get strange, and where most people never make it far enough to notice. When a mental loop begins to destabilize, your consciousness doesn't just wake up. It starts generating subtle distortions in how you perceive reality itself. Tiny glitches, micro moments where something feels off, but you can't explain why. You might feel slightly detached from conversations. You might sense emotions rising that don't logically match the situation. You might even catch yourself observing your own reactions instead of being controlled by them. And if you've noticed any of that recently, you're already further along this shift than you think. Because once your awareness rises above your automatic patterns, you begin to notice the hidden architecture of your reality. The invisible structure behind your choices, your impulses, your fears, your timing. The things you always assumed were just how life works suddenly look like they're running on a script. And the question that starts whispering in your mind is, if my reactions aren't fully mine, then who is steering my life? That question changes everything, because the moment you ask it, something starts observing you back. The loop becomes visible, its momentum becomes measurable, and the illusion that things just happen to you begins to collapse. That's the threshold you're standing on right now. In the next part of this video, I'm going to show you the exact mechanism that creates the observer loop, the psychological and neurological process that has silently shaped your identity for years. And once you see it clearly, the loop can't survive. It breaks instantly. Your perception shifts, your decisions sharpen, your life reorganizes around a new center of gravity that isn't built from fear or conditioning. Stay with me. You're about to understand why nothing ever changed, and why everything is about to. I didn't discover the observer loop during a moment of meditation or a moment of crisis. It happened during something painfully ordinary. A basic interaction I had watched 1,000 times and never thought twice about. Two people were talking, maybe 3 feet away from me. Nothing special, nothing dramatic, just normal human interaction. But something about the rhythm felt wrong. One of them kept responding a fraction of a second too quickly. The kind of speed that doesn't come from clarity, but from fear. The kind of speed you use when your mind is 2 steps ahead, trying to pre-correct a mistake that hasn't happened yet. Their smile was polite but tight around the edges. Their posture leaned forward in a way that wasn't curiosity. It was micro-tension disguised as engagement. And the other person? They were doing the dance we all do when we feel someone else's inner noise. Weigh, retreat, micro-adjust, micro-cool down. It was subtle, miniature, almost invisible. They leaned back a millimeter. Their eyes drifted away a little too early. Their answers got shorter, their tones smoothed into polite neutrality. It was like watching a social system recalibrate in real time. I didn't know it then, but what I was witnessing was the observer loop. Not in a book, not in theory, but alive, breathing, operating between two people who had no idea how much of their reality was being shaped by it. Because here's the truth. People don't respond to your words. They respond to your field, the energetic pressure behind those words. And this person, the one reacting too fast, smiling too hard, trying too much, wasn't failing socially because they were awkward. They were failing because their internal observer was switched on. Their attention wasn't on the conversation. It was on themselves. They weren't participating. They were monitoring. And the moment you start monitoring, you exit reality. You step into the observer loop. And once you're in it, every action becomes a self-referential feedback signal. How am I coming across? Did that sound normal? Am I being weird? Is this going well? Did they notice that? Should I fix it? Why did I say that? Why didn't they laugh? Why do I feel like this? Once that loop activates, your body starts leaking pressure. And humans avoid pressure the same way they avoid heat, risk, and emotional labor. Not because they dislike you, but because their nervous system reads your internal turbulence as work. The realization hit me like a brick to the chest. I wasn't watching them. I was watching myself, my old patterns, my old energy, my old habit of stepping into interactions already behind, already too aware, already monitoring. That was the moment I finally understood something nobody had ever explained. People don't avoid you. They avoid the version of you controlled by your observer, which brings us to the first hidden rule of this system. Human beings are insanely quick at detecting cost, not financial cost, behavioral cost. Within seconds, our nervous system asks, if I interact with this person, will it drain me or stabilize me? We don't consciously ask it. We feel it. Internal pressure, even if invisible to you, is loud to everyone else. It shows up as a half-second too much enthusiasm, a micro-pause before answering, a smile that's 1 degree too controlled, a voice with slightly sharpened edges, a posture trying too hard to open, eyes that look like they're checking, breath that's 1 rhythm faster than the moment requires. These are not flaws. They're symptoms. Symptoms of the observer loop running in the background. A mind monitoring itself instead of participating in the moment. When your internal pressure spikes, people instinctively reorganize themselves around you. They talk less. They calibrate more. They shorten sentences. They lower emotional intensity. They keep a polite distance. Not because they're judging you, but because your energy is signaling, I am not fully stable inside myself right now. And here's the part that hurts the most. Small pressure leaks compound into big perception shifts. Not because others are harsh, but because our species evolved to detect instability as threat. Pressure. Labor. Labor. Cost. Avoidance. This is the invisible tax you never knew you were paying. And here's the hidden rule. The moment your internal state requires someone else to manage it, you become high cost. That's why trying harder always backfires. That's why over-communicating pushes people away. That's why even confidence techniques fall flat. You can polish your behavior all day, but if your pressure leaks, none of it matters. Because behavior communicates, but pressure announces. And pressure always overrides behavior. Which brings us to the engine behind the problem. The loop that creates pressure before anyone even speaks. Every ruined opportunity in my life, job interviews, friendships, romantic chances, collaborations, everything, followed the exact same structure. And I didn't see it until I mapped the pattern. It goes like this. I want this to go well. That seems harmless, right? It isn't. Wanting it to go well triggers a performance state. Your body subtly tightens. Your mind jumps ahead. Performance state generates internal pressure. You're no longer in the moment. You're monitoring it. Pressure leaks through micro-behaviors. Microscopic signs other people feel instantly. People withdraw slightly, not in a dramatic way, in tiny subconscious recalibrations. Their withdrawal confirms your fear. Something's off. I'm messing this up. And the loop accelerates. Pressure increases further. Your timing gets sharper. Your voice shifts. Your mind races. You become misaligned with who you actually are. Your natural self disappears behind your defensive self. And now, you're trapped. That entire downward spiral happens in seconds, long before the conscious mind notices anything is wrong. This is why some interactions feel doomed from the first minute. Not because you said the wrong thing, not because you're socially anxious, not because you're overthinking. It's because the observer loop took over. Here's the brutal truth. When you treat an interaction as something to get right, you are no longer inside it. You're watching yourself try. People can feel the difference instantly, because you can't connect with someone while simultaneously running surveillance on yourself. And once you start observing yourself, your presence collapses. This is why. You feel normal with some people, but strained with others, calm when it doesn't matter, shaky when it does. Pressure modulates presence. But here's the part almost no one realizes. You cannot lower pressure by trying to relax. You cannot override the observer loop with breathing exercises. You cannot self-talk your way out of a state you didn't consciously enter. There is only one fix, a different state entirely. People often describe someone as magnetic, grounded, charismatic, or effortlessly confident. They think it's confidence. They think it's charm. They think it's some trained performance. It isn't. It is simply this. Low outward pressure with high internal clarity. It's not aloofness, not emotional detachment, not stoicism. It's internal neutrality. A mind that isn't predicting, calculating, or monitoring. These individuals are not thinking about their next line, how they look, how they sound, what impression they're making, the stakes of the moment. Whether they're doing well, whether they're being judged, what outcome they need. Their mind isn't outside of them, watching. It's inside the moment, participating. And when someone's internal field is quiet, still, and self-contained, everyone around them relaxes. Because low-pressure presence frees others from energetic labor. Low-pressure people are easy to be around, easy to trust, easy to follow, easy to open up to. Not because they're perfect, but because they're stable. And stability is rare. This is why people with low-pressure presence often get opportunities without trying, get respect without demanding it, and feel like they have gravity. They are costless. They reduce friction. They simplify the social environment. Here's the insight most people never learn. Presence is not something you create. Presence is what remains when you stop interfering with yourself. Your problem isn't lack of charisma. Your problem is internal noise. Silence the noise. Pressure drops. Pressure drops. Perception shifts. Perception shifts. Reality reorganizes. But how do you silence something that's invisible? You observe the one thing you've been ignoring. Your pressure. Before I ruined another opportunity, I did something I had never done before. I stopped watching the environment. I watched my pressure. Not my body language, not my tone, not my words, my pressure. And I asked myself one question. Am I trying to manage the moment? If the answer was yes, even slightly, I immediately pulled back internally. And something strange happened. My speech slowed on its own. My breathing deepened. My thoughts unjammed. My shoulders unlocked. My face softened. The micro-urgency vanished. The observer loop dissolved. I wasn't performing anymore. I wasn't chasing impressions. I wasn't predicting the next beat. I wasn't pre-correcting myself. I stopped leaking urgency. I stopped leaking need. I stopped leaking pressure. And the moment my internal field softened, the room shifted. People opened up more. Their tone warmed. They leaned in slightly. Their sentences expanded. Their guard lowered. I had changed nothing externally, but everything internally. I wasn't acting confident. I wasn't signaling dominance. I wasn't trying to project worth. I was simply not interfering with myself. And that absence of self-interference created a presence stronger than anything I had ever tried to manufacture. Pressure distorts perception, yours and theirs. When you're in the observer loop, people subconsciously read you as uncertain, self-focused, over-invested, outcome-dependent, emotionally volatile, energetically unstable, internally loud, even if none of that is true. Pressure is the distortion. Presence is the clarity. And here's the paradox. People trust the person who needs nothing from the moment. Not the loudest, not the most charismatic, not the smoothest, not the smartest, the one with the cleanest internal state. Why? Because clean internal states calm others, create safety, lower cognitive load, reduce unpredictability, signal self-sufficiency, increase emotional bandwidth, generate natural authority. People follow internal stability, not external performance. Here's the reset that broke the observer loop for me. The one that stopped me from ruining opportunities before they even began. It's 3 steps. 1. Notice the spike. That tiny surge in your chest before you speak. That anticipatory inhale. That sharpening of attention. That's pressure entering the system. 2. Drop the internal agenda. Not the goal, the agenda. Agenda. I need this to go well. Goal. Whatever happens, I'll respond from clarity. Agenda creates pressure. Goal creates presence. Shift from agenda to goal, and pressure softens instantly. 3. Re-enter the moment from your body, not your mind. Stop predicting. Stop monitoring. Stop grading yourself. Stop trying to perform. Feel the moment. Let your attention drop downward, back into sensation, back into embodiment, and the observer loop dissolves. Presence returns, not because you forced calm, but because you removed the disturbance. This is the state that attracts opportunities instead of repelling them. Before I ruined another opportunity, I noticed one thing. One truth that had been shaping my life without my knowledge. People are not responding to your behavior. They're responding to the pressure behind it. You don't need to be more charismatic. You don't need more confidence. You don't need scripts, techniques, or social tricks. You need to stop leaking the one signal that makes others cautious, tense, or distant. Unresolved internal pressure. Master that, and your presence becomes natural, effortless, inevitable. Because when you no longer fight yourself inside the moment, something incredible happens. You stop chasing outcomes. Outcomes begin aligning with you. Power stops being something you project. It becomes something you emanate. Quiet, stable, undeniable. The kind of presence that transforms how people see you and how you see yourself. The moment the observer loop breaks,